Be able to see recording now. Yeah, can you confirm, Abhishek?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay. Yeah, so as I said, we have consolidated new features. We are going to cover transit gateway, data graphs, API groups, teams, async API. This is added recently. So please be with me. There are questions on, trivia questions based on the slides only. Okay. And there is one question which is out of the box or out of the course, we can say. Okay. So please concentrate and we'll be having fun. Okay. So let me start. Yeah. So our two organizations are not available today, so I'll just keep this slide. Okay. So I have Anup and Palkish from Epicero, Anup from NJC Lab. Okay. Yeah, so I am a host and your friend today. So I have around 11 years of experience in industry. Uh, Most specific to integration domain, I have around 7 years of experience. Out of that, 4 years, 4.5 years in the MuleSoft. I'm a certified developer, architect, both platform and integration. I'm a MuleSoft mentor, and I'm leading this kind of the new data. Okay, recently I joined Epicero as a solution architect, and I tag myself as a speaker more than a developer because I love that part. Okay, and I'll talk about the harbor statement. Okay, so I'll read out for you guys. So this session, complete this meetup session, we are doing on our individual capacity. Okay, so from the community, people will be helping like Abhishek and Gaurav today helping me. And then we're not representing our companies here, and presentation or whatever POCs we are going to do here as part of this session all will be, specific to this session. We are not doing any propaganda or any business specific stuff. It won't work for you. Then we don't hold that responsibility. Okay, so I would suggest to please refer the news or documentation. Day by day, they will be updating or those documents will be up to date. So understand your business requirement properly and then try to apply the understanding from here. Okay. And this is again, it's not for the promotional activities. So that's what about the harvest statement. Okay. Now I'll talk about little housekeeping items. So definitely you'll get the recording of this session within 24 hours after this session. And please feel free to ask questions, make it more interactive. Uh, and the last part, I love that part. Please give feedback. Please come forward on and suggest us what you wanted to see or in the next session, or you can come forward and register for speaker itself. Okay, come with a new topic or interesting topic. Even if you are new guys, right, will help you to in preparing presentation or need help in POCs or all, right? So we are here, and it's bread and butter for us, like feedback. Okay, so we love that. Okay, so please go ahead and this part, everyone. Okay, after this session, you'll get a feedback link. Please give feedback over there. Okay, so let's start. Okay, before starting, an agenda, look at the screen and whatever comes to your mind, can you ping or type in the chat? What do you think about this slide? I just put the randomly here, okay, to grab your attention. Can anyone, Ravi sir, can you give me your impression by looking at this slide? Definitely, I have not designed it. I'll give credit to whoever designed this slide, but very, very informative. What do you say, Ravi sir? What is your point by looking at this slide? Abhishek?
This slide, like what it indicates to me is like what all AND system or what all functionality MuleSoft gave us so that we can connect to this all AND system. Like it is possible to have an interaction using MuleSoft to all this.
Not only MuleSoft, okay. This is general slide, okay, and it says, it talks about we are growing actually. Okay, look at the screen. In every area you will see
Yeah.
that every area, read, there is a heading for each section. Okay, So day by day we are growing. So Gartner matrix, if you guys are aware of it, it says every company on an average, okay, on an average, every enterprise is using the APIs around, there is a number, okay, around 900 on an average. Okay. So once now, if you see this screen, you have this many end systems. And if you're thinking about the integrating or communication between these guys, think about it. Okay. What kind of solution you will provide to your customer. Okay. Definitely from this section, from each section, at least one item will be used by your client. Look at the screen. Okay. Microsoft, definitely to be used by anyone of IBM. If I pick any section here, NoSQL, DynamoDB, everybody is using DynamoDB. MongoDB, Cassandra. And if I go to SQL, Oracle, MySQL, if I go to digital commerce, Salesforce, SAP, right? If I go to cloud, right? Everywhere. That means definitely we need someone who can integrate these guys seamlessly, right? That's what the problem comes by looking at this slide, how to integrate, okay? And the MuleSoft provides that solution, in a seamless fashion. Okay, so let me take a few moments. If I go with point to point connectivity to connect these systems, look at the complexity of this, right? I just picked few systems and look at the connection between those guys. So look at this. And we know that what are the problems with the point to point integration. Okay, the point to point integration is not new to us, it's already there. If we have, definite, like for example, it's 5 to 6 systems, point to point is the best solution. Okay, but if you're growing, we're talking about this slide, not the section where access management we have few. I'm not talking about this section, we have all this, and your end goal is to integrate all these systems. Okay, if I go with this solution, look at the complexity. Okay, the problem with point to point connectivity is complexity. And if you wanted to integrate new system, I need to build n minus one, connection between other systems. Okay, so to avoid this, fortunately, we have MuleSoft. And since we are talking in MuleSoft meetup, so I talk about MuleSoft only, but there are tools available in the market, right? I'm not going to talk about those tools, but there are tools available which will give me this solution. Now look at this slide now, right? So this guide will give us the platform or environment where we can connect the system, end system from these sections, seamlessly. Okay, why I'm saying seamlessly? Because we have out of the box more than I think 200 plus connectors available. Okay, so if I look at the screen, definitely those connectors are belongs to these sections only, right? Am I right? And if we go with this solution, yeah, if we go with this solution, definitely, Gartner matrix or Gartner's facts and figures, if I used here, they're saying that 64% of, productivity increased with because of the MuleSoft, because of tools like this. Okay, so the first slide we came till, our journey reached till this slide. And by looking at this slide, I can say by using the Gartner matrix, the matrix fact and figures, they are saying 64% of productivity increase because of this, because of migrating from point to this ESB world. Okay, EPA-led approach or anything you can take. Okay, so layer approach, EPA-led approach, or ESB approach, from point to this, approach or this solution, increases productivity by 64%. Time to market increased by 78%. Okay, these are the numbers from Gartner matrix. Okay, I'm not putting it here, but when we compare any tool with other tools or solution with other solution, definitely we talked about the Gartner matrix. Those parameters, that matrix will tell you that how good your tool or where it is landing right now, where it is lying right now in the quadrants. Okay, so if you're aware of that, recently there was a news, MuleSoft from last 6 years in the API world is leading. Okay, Not only in API world, integration world also it's leading from last 6 years. Okay. Yeah. So since we are using this MuleSoft, definitely a reusability part comes into, and a lot of assets will build which will reduce the cost of your operation. Okay. So again, as per the Gartner matrix, they are saying like 78% of the operational cost reduced by this approach. Okay, so time to market, complexity, and the operational cost. These are the most consumable parameters from any enterprise. Right? In this area, they invest like anything. Okay, now same thing. Okay, I just renamed those boxes. So look at this. So we'll be having the components available on the AIM systems, and we'll be having our MuleSoft components available on the, maybe if you're going with the cloud of approach, or if you're going with the on-premises approach, or if you're going with the RTF approach. So below the line, those will be MuleSoft components. Above the lines, all will be AIM systems. Okay. So MuleSoft, work as a, what I can say, mediator between AIM system, and it works like a middle layer. Okay, it handles the transforming part, validation part, security part, non-functional as well as functional requirements handled by the MuleSoft. Okay, yeah. So we are moving from the typical integration to the digitalization. Okay, so digitalization is not at all possible without modern integration. So why I'm saying modern integrations? So if I wanted to, talk about typical integration, there you'll be having, one system, all things will be embedded inside it. So we can say monolithic, right? So there, if you are going for scaling, the scaling problem will be there because you wanted to scale everything individually. You cannot go there. Loosely coupled thing won't be there. Everything will be embedded in a black box. Those things we already seen as a part of typical integration. But when we talk about modern integration, your data won't be locked under your end systems. It will be unlocked and it will be accessible to all the world. Then, if you talk about the capability and the scalability, you can go with the API approach where you can use the microservices, where each service you can deploy it in different server. So scalability point of view, you can go. Let's say in future, any one of your services like it's very famous, you can scale it individually without any affecting your complete project. You can add any system any point of time because of loosely coupling nature. So that will reduce the cost of, if you have any bug. So bug management or fixing the bug in a specific small unit, that is always take less time of, as compared to the monolithic nature. So modern integration comes into picture when you're going for API solution, microservices solution, SO solution, right? Then that's what, again, as per the Gartner matrix, if we are going from traditional integration to the modern integration, they are saying that by 2020, by 2022, at least 65% of the large organizations, they'll be implementing hybrid integration model. Okay, and then they will try to move from traditional integration to modern integration. They will bring their business from traditional integration to the modern integration. In modern integration, the way of looking at integration will change. There will be a lot of IoT devices are coming. There are a lot of support for SaaS-based applications, right? Those, we have seen that we go with the corporate network where we need VPCs, DLBs, and all. But if you talk about Salesforce, right? Don't you think Salesforce is available and it has to be there in the corporate network? No, it's available as SaaS applications. So we don't need to have VPC and all that. It's automatically available and accessible on internet. So this is a lightweight, very lightweight communication between Salesforce and your MuleSoft if I want to talk about the modern integration. Okay, right? I'll take a pause over here before starting agenda. If you have any questions, Abhishek, do you have any questions?
One from Chandra. He's saying like, can you explain more about microservices?
Okay, so when you talk about microservice, right? So I can say a piece of your project exists independently. For example, I'll take example of logging service. Okay, so logging service is a piece of your project, but it can exist independently. It can have a single responsibility. You can deploy that service on any server. You can scale that entity. I'll say entity instead of API. If you're able to scale that entity without touching your part or rest of your project, then I would say that is a microservice. Okay. So why we are going with microservice again? So uh, maintenance point of view, whenever you get a bug, right? I'll talk in client perspective or in real world perspective. Whenever you get a bug or any problem in the production, right? If you get less lines of code, it's a few lines of code. In definitely you need less time to analyze that bug, and you can fix that bug. You can deploy that code in less time as compared to complete monolithic project, right? So here scalability, independence, maintenance point of view, you're reducing a lot of time. Okay, so microservice again, it's API, it's individual activity which can exist independently. You can deploy it anywhere, and you can scale it any point of time. Okay, that is microservice, which single responsibility. Okay, and it's a part of your project. Okay, so in RAML world, we can say this is a fragmented part of your RAML or fragmented part of your project, which can exist without your project. Chandra, Abhishek, any more questions?
One more from Bhupendra. Like he's requesting like need more about use case driven versus code driven.
Mhm.
That's it. So
Is that a
Bhupendra,
question or?
he's asking like for that
Mhm.
one. So Bhupendra, can you elaborate it more, or
Yeah,
if you want to speak?
yeah, maybe here I'll try to answer that. Maybe if I understand correctly. So as I said, right, when you get a requirement, right, complete requirement in traditional integration, you think about that complete project. Okay, in modern integration, what we do, we think about it. Okay, what part of this project can I make it a reusable assets? Okay, so reusable assets means we'll try to build a microservice out of it. So when I'm building the projects, I'll try to see, can I create any reusable template out of it? Can I create a reusable custom connector out of it? Can I create any logging service out of it? Auditing service out of it? Can I use notification service out of it? In next project, I can reuse this assets from here. So that's how use case driven we will go ahead. So we'll split that project and we'll start independently building those small objects. Okay, and we'll try to test those small objects or those small services independently. Okay, so we are increasing, we are actually splitting the work also. That means load balancing we are doing, and we are increasing the usability also. So use case driven and code driven is go in hand in hand. Okay, that's what I'm saying. The only approach looking at that problem is different. Okay, and if you change that approach, we are getting more reusable assets, and for the next project, actually we are reducing time to market also. Okay, so maybe yeah, let me know if you got the answer, but that is how we look at use case driven and the code driven. Okay, so Abhishek, I'll go for agenda now. Okay, so this is
Sure.
Yeah, this is the agenda, today's agenda. So we are going to talk about the transit gateway. Then we are going to talk about Anypoint data graph. So here, in Anypoint data graph, already in lot of meetups we talked about. But today, here we are going to talk about how to access the non-mule API, which is secure. We are going to see how to graph without credentials, how to access the unified schema, how it looks. Okay, so these are the use cases which I'm going to cover in this section. API groups will take a few use cases where we'll see that, in out of the box, we already had the automated policy where you can apply policy on all the API instances. Let's say you have hundreds of API, you can, if you want to apply, a governance policy on it. So every API instance should have, let's say, client ID enforcement policy. We can do with the help of automated policy. If you want to go for individual API instance, then you can go to that instance and say apply policy. But if you want to split your API groups logically, if you want to group based on your business, if I take Mahindra business, right? So they have manufacturing as well as automobile as well as the software. So let's say they bought the MuleSoft and they have the set of APIs. Now consumers, let's say they go on their public exchange and they're looking at the API set, right? So if they, let's say there are thousands of APIs, how consumer will come to know that which API belongs to software, which API belongs to automobile, which API belongs to manufacturing? Unless he go to each and every API and read the documentation, there is no other way, right? Can you suggest me anyone? Is there any other way? No, there is no way. Your consumer needs to read the documentation about that API if documentation is there. I know there are clients where there is no documentation available for their APIs except MuleSoft. Okay, I'm not talking about MuleSoft, but yes, you see that there is a less documentation about your API on Exchange, on your API portal. So with that approach, if you go, I could see discoverability problem over there. Consumer needs a lot of time to decide which API I supposed to use for my use case or for my requirement. Okay. What if you take Mahindra, we are taking name, but if that client already do the logical splitting of APIs, if they have three API groups over there, one API belongs to software, one API belongs to automobile, one API belongs to manufacturing. Sorry. Okay. So your discoverability is, now you have focus, right? You know that this set of APIs are belongs to software. Now that is that one problem we are reducing there. Second problem is, if you're thinking, if you don't have API groups, what happens? You need to request for each and every API. Okay, if you want to access those APIs, and if those APIs are secure, if those APIs are SLA based, then you need to go apply the request, put the request for each and every API. Right? That means if you're going with a different client, then you need to maintain those many client over there in the exchange. Maintenance point of view, it's a hectic again. But if you go with the API groups, you need to put only one request. Okay, so for all the software APIs, you need to put one request on that API group. So easily only one client and client ID and client secret. Okay. Then comes the teams. This is again a new, very useful because in Anypoint platform roles are going to duplicate. Okay. So now everything will be there in the teams. For example, if you want to mimic entire your organization structure in your Anypoint platform, then you can take help of teams. Okay, you can create exactly the same structure over there, and whichever team, like in your company, whoever comes to join their individual teams, you can add, create that user or invite that user inside your team structure, and same set of permissions will be automatically assigned to that member. Okay, provided you need to create the structure and define the permissions beforehand. So whenever you're onboarding users in those respective organization teams, you can add that user in this structure also. it helps a lot. Okay, you can create this, you can automate creating team and assigning the permissions also. Okay, I did that for one of my client, so you can automate it. So first you need to create only benchmark team structure, and then you can repeat that to all other teams. Okay, so you can do that. Recently, async API support, is included inside the Anypoint platform. Okay, so what this async API support is, it's a specification. You can write the specification for your event-driven architecture. Okay, so we'll see this one also. So in this, async API specification, you can write what are the channels available for your asynchronous API. Okay, how you are consuming that message, whether you're publishing it, whether you're subscribing it, what is the data type you're going to, the message has. Okay, so you can validate that. But we won't be getting that testing, feature for this async API right now. I don't know the future roadmap, whether they are going to add that or not. I don't know. Just like REST API, we are going to write the specification inside the Anypoint Design Center, and we'll see, okay, how it looks. So here, what we are doing is, when you write the API specification, you are actually increasing the discoverability part of your, because if you write asynchronous API in your Anypoint platform, right, that won't be visible anywhere. Just like REST API, you'll be having API specification available in Exchange. Right? For the asynchronous API, we are going to expose this API specification or publish this to Exchange. From there, people can discover this kind of APIs. Okay, so that's about the agenda. I think I have explained the slides here itself. Okay, so we'll start with the recent one. So most recent is the asynchronous API. Okay, so if you open the Design Center, right, in Design Center, now we have fourth option called New Asynchronous API in the Create New option. Okay, where if you go, so it supports two languages. One is the YAML language, another one is the JSON language. Okay, and here you'll be getting single file. So everything you need to write it here. Here also you can apply the fragmentation. I'll show you that how to apply the fragmentation here. Okay, so the API special will talk about the client server model. Okay, so we have seen, right? We have seen REST API where we send the request, we'll get a response, right? That is synchronous. So the moment I send the request, I need to wait till I get the response. Okay, so there are ways we can implement that synchronous API in a different way also, because the moment you get the request, you can send some reply to your client, and you can give some placeholder to them, maybe a transaction ID or maybe something else, right? So that they can track that synchronous API, maybe the change of state of that synchronous API in later point of time. So there is a way there in the REST API, but here we are talking about completely asynchronous. Okay, so here we're talking about messaging queues where you'll be publishing, subscribing data, and be cross-checking the state of that data. Okay, so here if you see, there are three entities. Okay, the publisher, or in other words, we can say that producer. There will be a broker. Okay, so broker has a responsibility to deliver the message, take the message, carry it, and deliver to the subscriber. We can, in other words, we call it consumers. Okay, so how did this message looks like? That will also, we are going to write in the API specification how it looks like, what operation I'm doing. Okay, what are the channels available? Okay, so if you take the example of radio, right? So radio has multiple channels. So when the data is, it will go to the proper channel. If that channel are not there, you won't be able to read or hear anything from those channels. Everything will be scrambled together, and you'll get only interference, noise only, other than you're getting clear voice. So how many channels are available? That complete detail we are going to write, or description about your asynchronous API in the async API. So how it looks, let me show you. Abhishek, you can stop me any point of time if there are any questions.
Sure, Ashish.
Yeah. So as I said, it supports two extensions. Okay, the JSON extension and the YAML extension. And as I said, it's completely for messaging queues. Okay. And this async API specification is the free open source, and it's under the Apache license. And latest version, I think 2.2.0, but we are going to use 2.0.0 in our endpoint platform. But if you go to the async API.org, right, there you'll find latest version is 2.2.0. Okay, and this is industry standard for asynchronous API, and it recently added in our AnyPoint platform. Recently, there is a question on this. Okay, so how recently? I am not going to tell here. You need to answer that question. Okay. Yeah. So when you write, right? So one more point. We have playground for this also. Just like we have data we playground, we have playground. You can go ahead and play with this API specification, asynchronous API specification. You can go play with this, on asynchronous. Let me check what is the exact. Maybe I'll is asyncapi.com. Okay, so you can go ahead any point of time and have a look at playground for this guy. Okay, what happened? Okay, so here when you write the API specification, when you select that fourth option and say that you give a API name, you'll get the this part. Okay, so let me. You'll get by default till here. So till here. Okay, so you'll get the info section, you'll get channel section, okay, and you'll get title and version. This description you can add it. Okay, so this title will be coming from your API name, and this screenshot I have taken it from the playground. That's the reason it's saying 2.2.0, but it's actually 2.0.0 in AnyPoint platform. It won't support 2.2.0 right now. Okay, then we need to define the channels. Okay, how many channels you have? So right now we have one channel called user signed up, and operations we are using is subscriber. Okay, and then you are giving message data type. So here I was talking about fragmentation. Either you can use a reference, or you can write the message definition over here itself. This part I'm saying, right? So this complete part you can write it in this location here itself. Okay, but if you think right, this data type or this message structure you can reuse in other channels. You can export it as a component. Inside the components you can write clearly here what are the messages you have. So I have a message called user signed up, and the payload and type of that payload is object. Inside object I have display name and email. Okay, just like REST API, we can fragment. As I said, we can fragment and use the reference over here. In REST API, we use include or library, right? So same way we can write, but we need to write in a single file. There you can go to multiple files also. And here there are inbuilt data types also. You can see there is a format here. Just like we have pattern in our REST API, here we have format. Here you can give the inbuilt format, so it will validate the incoming request against this format. Okay, just like we have pattern inside our REST API, here we have format. Okay, so you can give a string and then you can apply the pattern in REST API. Here you can say that email is a type of string, but it should match with the email format. Okay, the moment you define this message, the playground will create automatic auto-generated example for you also. Okay, so as I was talking about operations, so this is subscription, and then this is the channel. Okay, and this channel expect this kind of payload. This is what we are going to describe in API specification. So you can see here clearly, this is the channel available, and this channel is subscribed, and then this is the payload we are going to consume when we get the message on this channel. Okay, any questions so far?
Question from Jeevan. He's asking, here also we can import fragments.
Import fragments in
Into
exchange
Exchange.
or from exchange.
He wrote into Exchange, but I think
Yeah, he definitely we can publish this complete to the exchange. I'll show you that one. Whatever we are writing inside the design center, it will be available in the exchange once you publish it. But the difference is you are not going to test anything from here. Okay. So if you're saying something you are referring from exchange, I'm not aware of it. Okay. I'll take that question as a, maybe I'll do research. Since this is recent.
yeah. So Ashish, like what I understand, like if I'm not wrong, Jeevan, we can import any fragment to this particular API sync in this AML. Like we can import from Exchange, correct? But this is like a specification, but this is different. Like it is YAML or JSON. So this cannot be treated as a fragment.
Exactly.
Correct. This cannot be treated as a fragment. We can import fragment in this API sync, but we cannot treat this as a fragment or import this to any fragment.
And again, as Abhishek mentioned, right, this is for documentation only. So you're telling your consumers that your asynchronous API has these many things. Okay, till this point, this support was not there in any point platform. Before that, we were not in position to tell our consumers that how my asynchronous API looks like. Okay, so after this point, we are clearly going to write how my asynchronous API looks like, and then we are going to publish this to our exchange so that consumer clearly see. Okay, there is no mocking service available for this particular specification. It's available for only REST API. Okay, Abhishek.
Yeah. So we are going to have a demo for this one, Ashish.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll show you.
Yeah.
That.
So
Okay.
Chandra real life example on one async API.
Okay. Yeah. So if you see, as I said, the moment you define this payload, it will generate auto-generated example for it. Okay, here itself. Okay, and this is I'm talking about playground right now. Okay. Now we talk about the most recent, but in the second number, transit gateway. So the transit gateway. Okay. So transit gateway is a kind of router, okay, which if you aware of the VPC connectivity with your corporate data center, we used to have the VPN direct connect, we have VPC peering, all those things, and we faced a lot of problems when we migrate our VPN connection from one environment to other environments, right? VPC peering from one environment to other environments, AWS direct from one environment to other environments. So this transit gateway was there in AWS. Okay, it's not a new thing, but it's supported by MuleSoft recently. Okay, so what this guy does, this guy gives us the router. So my VPC will be connecting to transit gateway. So now we are going in two hops, from VPC to transit gateway, from transit gateway to my corporate network. Earlier, there was only one hop from my VPC to my corporate network. Now, advantage of this transit gateway is now you need to, you don't need to migrate this transit gateway from one environment to another environment. You just connect your VPC, dev VPC with your or non-prod VPC to the transit gateway, and from transit gateway to your corporate network. Maybe it's a dev corporate network. Then your prod VPC to the transit gateway. You don't need to change your transit gateway. Then your prod corporate network to the transit gateway. Okay, so this simplified actually the complexity of migrating your VPN connectivity or VPC peering connectivity or your AWS direct. Okay, that's what I'm going to talk about in the second slide. So it works as a router where we can build the network between your VPC to your third-party software or your corporate network or your SaaS applications, just like Salesforce. Okay. Then to create this transit gateway, we need to have two things. Okay. One, your AWS transit, AWS account. There you will create a transit gateway, and you need to have VPC. Then you'll attach this VPC to your transit gateway. So that means you're configuring your VPC details to a transit gateway, and you'll be connecting your corporate network from your corporate network details to a transit gateway. Then you'll check the connectivity. So again, it's two hops from your VPC to transit gateway and transit gateway to your corporate network. Okay. Now, the question comes, how many transit gateway I can have? So based on your subscriptions, okay. So how many entitlements we have for your subscriptions, just like we have VPC entitlement, right? You can go with the 2 VPCs, right? Similar way, based on your subscription, I don't know how many numbers are there in your subscriptions. So based on that subscription entitlement, you can create those many transit gateways. Okay. So here the main point is it's a kind of router, or it's there in the cloud where you'll be connecting or attaching your VPC. It can be your dev VPC, it can be your prod VPC. You'll be connecting that to your transit gateway, and from transit gateway you'll be connecting to your corporate network or any third-party system. Okay. So I can say that this is like a replacement for your VPN or your VPC peering or your direct connect. Okay, but it is kind of mediator or it's kind of router, and this is not new thing. It's already available in the AWS, recently supported by Anypoint platform. So let's talk about the use case over here. Okay, so what kind of use case we can build it? So let's take this use case where we have a client who wants to implement the solution with the help of Anypoint platform. So let's say they have SaaS-based application just like Salesforce, SAP application, which is like is there in the AWS VPC. So now I have AWS VPC, I have Salesforce. So Salesforce, I don't need any connectivity stuff like this. I can directly access Salesforce through internet. Okay, so I don't have any problem with the Salesforce. Second point is AWS VPC. Okay, so if this VPC is in same region, I can use a VPC peering. Okay, but I don't want to use right now VPC peering. Let's say that is the restriction from the client. Okay, then I have something called web service, which is there in my private AWS VPC. Then I have a database which is lying inside my corporate network. So this is, if I go with the requirement, so this is my first end system, second end system, third API, fourth database, which is available in my data center. This is available in my private AWS VPC. This is available in private AWS VPC. This is a SaaS-based application, so I don't have any problem with this guy. So it's available on the internet. Now we'll see that, and they're looking for a cloud-based solution. Okay, so we'll see that without transit gateway, how we can implement with your traditional approach, and we'll see with the help of transit gateway how we can implement this solution. So they wanted to see all the Anypoint capabilities like zero downtime, intelligent healing, security part, and then high availability. Okay, so all these things are non-functional requirement also they have, and they have these systems available. So let's go ahead and see without transit gateway how we can implement this. So if you look at this is my control plane over here. And this is my runtime plane where I have my non-prod VPC, I have my prod VPC, and from my non-prod and prod VPC, okay, I'll be two connections, okay, I'll be having two connections. Actually, I'm showing only one connection, but from my non-prod, from here also there will be a connection. So I'm showing common connection over here, and from here also there will be a connection. Okay. So when I'm saying database, my database is there in my corporate data center. I'll be using VPN. Okay. When I'm saying AWS private VPC, if it is in the same region where my prod VPC and non-prod VPC is there, I'll use VPC peering. Same goes for the SAP, right? So right now I don't have transit gateway. Now think about it. If I wanted to move this connection to other environments, dev environments, queue environments, test environments. So I need to have those many connections. Okay. Now let's say tomorrow I want to add one more connection over here. It's like a point-to-point connectivity, right? So whatever point-to-point connectivity has the disadvantages, all those are here with the traditional approach. Okay, it's a point-to-point connectivity. Tomorrow, if I want to add one more system here, I need to build all those connections from non-prod VPC, from prod VPC, right? Now, if I want to go with transit gateway, okay, now look at this. I have only one connection with the transit gateway. Whether it's a non-prod VPC, only I'll be connecting only once to this guy, okay? And this guy is behaving like a mediator, which will be having connection with the data center, other VPC, okay, with the help of, it can be AWS Direct, or it can be, if it is not in same region, the transit gateway supports the AWS Direct also. Not only VPC peering, this guy can support the AWS Direct also. So let's say this AWS VPC not there in my, say, my region, okay? So my VPC is there in, let's say, EOS-East 2, OIO, okay? So let's say this AWS VPC is not available there. So this transit gateway will be having AWS Direct connection over here. Now look at how simplified the version of the previous solution, right? Okay, so I'll take a pause over here. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Ashish, we have one from Sandeep regarding Async API. He is asking,
okay.
PubSub, PubSub is one type of async API. For other async pattern, what is the format of RAML?
It's not a RAML, first of all. Either you can write it in YAML or this guy in the JSON. So let's say, so I'll take it as a messaging queue, right? So messaging queue also you'll be doing two operations, correct? Publish and subscribe. There also you need to define the channel. That means your queue name. In case of messaging queue, channel is nothing but your queue name. From that queue name, either you can consume the message or you can publish the message. Same way you need to define there also. But the channel name will be your queue name. Right? Correct? Hope that is the answer to you. It will be similar way, the way we are writing our API specification, but the channel name will be your queue name. Other operation will be publish or subscribe, consume or produce, the same way which we call it, and the message data type you need to define. Okay, Abhishek, you want to add anything?
No, all good answers.
Okay. So then we have something called data graph. Okay, so most of the, I think from the community, they are aware of data graph now because there are a lot of meetups happening. But my intention here to show you the unified schema, how it looks, how to access the secured non-mule API, and what else? Third thing I was talking about, during demo, I'll try to show you that. Okay. So what the AnyPoint data graph behind the scene use the GraphQL. Okay, so let me talk about little bit about the GraphQL. So GraphQL is something which consumed multiple APIs in a single request. Okay, so if I wanted to talk about case, let's say I have this use case, okay, where I have web application, I have mobile app. Now, both the applications, okay, mobile and the web, they are consuming data from same API. Let's say my Mule APIs. I have here mentioned Mule API, but this can be a non-Mule API also. Okay, possible. Now, when if I go with the traditional approach, I'll be pulling data from both the APIs, all the data. Then I'll be writing custom logic over here. I'll try to show you that how we can implement without any point data graph and with the data graph. But look at the requirement of the web application. In web application, I need, let's say I need all the fields from both the APIs. But in mobile API, I need only few fields. But to get that data, I need to call two APIs, means two API calls for the web API also, for the mobile API also. I need to filter the fields from that result. I need to merge the result, and then I need to show it here. Now I have only two clients, okay, web application and the mobile application. What if I add one more here? I need to, in that, for that, let's say I have one more consumer over here. I need to write API call for this guy, API call for this guy, get the data from here, get the data from here, get the data from here, merge the data, then filter the data, order the data, and then based on the consumer requirement, then send the data to the consumer. Right? These things, if you go back one more slide here, okay, so in one, this guy, if you want to talk about data graph specifically, in one query, this guy can call those two APIs, downstream APIs, get the data, merge the data, filter the data, order the data in single query. That means only one request from client. Okay. When I'm talking about merging, filtering, and ordering data, if I go with the traditional approach, definitely I need a process API to do that. Okay. We'll see here in the data graph case, we don't need that process API at all. Okay. Then here, since this data graph is a managed service, you don't need to worry about the maintenance part, the support part, the infrastructure part. Automatically, it will be handled. It will be highly available for you, just like we have API manager, right, in control plane, just like we have Anypoint MQ. The similar way, this is again a managed service by Anypoint platform, but definitely behind the scene, this guy also will be using your vCore. Whenever you create a data graph instance in your business group, specific business group, you need to have proper vCore assigned to that business group. Otherwise, you won't be able to create the data graph instance. So behind the scenes, this guy definitely uses the vCore from your subscriptions. Okay. And as I said, this is a managed service, so you don't need to worry about the infrastructure part. You're not going to deploy anything inside your runtime manager or in your Mule runtime. Whenever you're adding any APIs or whenever you're adding any non-Mule API in data graph, you're not going to deploy anything inside your runtime. Everything will be done for you automatically behind the scene by this data graph. Okay. So this is a managed service. You need to buy it. Okay. By default, in the trial version, you'll get it. But when you go for the actual subscription, you won't be able to see data graph over there. You need to buy it. Okay. And again, I'm saying, when you wanted to create instance in your business group, proper vCore has to be assigned. Otherwise, you won't be able to create data graph instance over there. Okay. Okay. So let's see this use case, how we can implement with the traditional approach. Look at this traditional approach. So this is an API-led approach. Nothing wrong with this solution. But if you look at here, I need to write custom logic over here. These are those APIs. This is my, let's say, book API. This is my author API. This is my library API. So by this process API, whenever Let's say this API is my web application, no, not web application. This is a RPA, it's a robotic operation. This guy needs all the fields from all three APIs. Now, whenever this guy request will come here. It will go to process API. Process API will call all these three APIs, maybe in sequence, maybe in parallel. Okay. The moment you call it, you will get the response from here, all the data from here, all the data from here. Now, the responsibility of this process API to merge all the fields from here, all the fields from here, and then filter it, then order it, and give it to this guy. Now think about it. If this consumer needs data from only book API and author API, even in that case, this process API will be calling this guy also. If you have written proper code, that's fine. But if you don't handle that request, this request which you are coming from here, in that case, you need to call these three APIs in any case, get the data, and then filter only the books API result and authors API result and send that to this guy. That means here we are consuming a lot of network bandwidth. We are spending time on merging the data, filtering the data, and then ordering the data also. Now let's see how we can reduce first the number of APIs. Okay. And then we don't need to write any custom logic to merge and filter the data. That will be automatically handled by the data graph. Third thing, I don't need to deploy API something like this in my runtime manager. If you're going with the traditional approach, definitely you need to deploy minimum 4 APIs. If I'm talking about this solution, minimum 4 APIs you need to deploy inside your runtime. And minimum, if you go with the CloudWeb solution, 0.1 vCore, 0.1 vCore, 0.1 vCore, that means 0.4 vCore you'll be consuming in this case, even if these are very lightweight. Okay, let me show you now the data graph solution. If you look at this data graph solution, we have only one endpoint. I have added all 3 APIs inside my data graph. Now, this guy behind the scene, as I said, it supports the GraphQL. Now, the GraphQL has the ability or capability to get the query as a request, GraphQL query. Based on that query, okay, based on that query, this guy will decide whether to call all the APIs or only the specific API. That intelligence is already there inbuilt with this guy. That means first problem I'm solving that I don't need to call unnecessary, non-required API. That is solved. Second thing is this guy has a inbuilt intelligence to merge the result from the API responses. Then this guy has inbuilt intelligence of ordering and filtering the result as well. So for example, if this guy needs the data from all 3 APIs, in that case only all 3 APIs will be called by this GraphQL. Let's say mobile app needs a data from only books API. This guy will call only books API. This call is not going to happen. Okay, and now look at this. This experience API, layer API, all are gone. On process layer also, there are no APIs. Whatever I'm showing here, this is not API guys, okay? This is a data graph instance which is managed by Anypoint platform. Behind the scene, this guy is definitely using vCore. I don't have answer like how many vCore, whether it's a 0.1 vCore is used by this guy or 0.2 vCore. I don't have that answer. I need to do the research on that. But definitely, this guy will be using vCore. Okay. If you have any questions on this, Abhishek.
I have 2 questions, Ashish. One from Pawan. automatically vCourse will be consumed on the load to the data graph request or something to manage from our side.
We don't need to manage from our side. We don't need to do anything. I'll show you that. Okay, one use case I have, maybe time permits, I'll show you. I have planned use cases, but time permits, I'll show you that. I just need to add my API specification. I don't need to do anything from my side. I don't need to assign anything, provided your business group should have sufficient vCore assigned. That's it. Wherever I'm creating this, that business group should have sufficient vCore assigned to this. Data graph is not going to show me how many vCores I'm using or what is the vCore size I'm using. Okay, so that is completely managed and hidden from our from the users. Yeah, second question, Abhishek. Are you there, Abhishek? Gaurav? Are you able to hear me or?
I think Abhishek has dropped off.
Okay, I'll take care of. Gaurav can help me with the questions. Okay, I think he has to go to the other. Okay, so any cons if we use this approach instead of API approach? Okay, so guys, this approach you can use only when you want to query the data. Okay, so if you want to create the resources, still our API led approach is the best approach. Why I'm saying post methods are not supported by now GraphQL right now, any point. Not with the GraphQL still supports, or AnyPoint data graph not supports creating resources via AnyPoint data graph. So whenever you're doing the query part, definitely you can use this approach. Okay, but you need to buy that data graph, right? Provided you need to have that subscription, and then you need to use it. Okay, he said like you need to drop. Okay. Yeah, definitely for the GraphQL, Bhupendra, we need to write the code because you need to write the resolver over there. You need to use the connector and you need to deploy it, guys. Okay. Whenever you're using GraphQL, so there's a connector. That connector you need to use and you deploy your app. What we're talking here is in solution, I don't need to deploy anything. Okay. I just need to have my API specification available inside my Exchange. The moment those things are available, I can consume those APIs in one endpoint, and based on the GraphQL query, data graph will decide which API to call, what data to get, and you'll get the data which is required, not less, not more. Okay. Okay. Okay, Sandeep. So what I was talking about, hope you guys are able to hear me. Okay, so data graph right now supporting only querying the message, querying the data. Okay, it's not supporting right now to create the data inside maybe on your database or on your external system. No, it's not supporting right now. It's supporting only getting the data. Okay, so that's what I was explaining. In GraphQL case, right, if you are using GraphQL integration, definitely you need to write the code and deploy that inside your runtime. But with the data graph, is the managed service and it won't deploy anything in your runtime. Okay, hope that is answer to your question, Sandeep. Okay. Yeah, looks like some issue with the meeting sometime. In the beginning, I explained choose instruction, better rejoin the doubt session. Yeah, is there are you guys facing Gaurav? Are you able to hear me clearly?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
People are saying there are some problem with the meeting. Okay, fine. Okay,
So sorry to
Again.
interrupt you, Ashish. There is one more question. So someone is asking what are the disadvantages of this approach instead of API-led approach? Jeevan Kumar.
Disadvantage, I won't say disadvantage, but if you don't have data graph license, you won't be having the data graph capability. First thing, with API led approach, actually we have advantages. Okay, because we are going to reduce the number of APIs in some scenarios. I'm not saying in all the scenario we can reduce the number of APIs, because when you're creating resources, right, in the REST API, when you're creating resources, that is not yet supported by endpoint data graph right now. Okay, GraphQL is supporting that, but anypoint data graph is not supporting. Okay, so don't get confused. GraphQL is separate thing. Anypoint data graph is separate thing. Anypoint data graph behind the scene is using that. Okay. Okay. Any more questions? And one more thing, with the API-led approach, you'll be having multiple endpoints. With the anypoint data graph in one environment, you'll be having only one endpoint, single endpoint. You cannot have multiple data graph endpoint in your environment in anypoint platform. If you go to the different environment, definitely you can have different data graph endpoint, but here you won't have single environment, single endpoint. But if you go to the API-led approach, you can have n number of endpoints. Right? I'm just giving differences. Okay, both guys are having their benefits, their problems, and I'm not saying that anypoint data graph will completely replace the API connectors. No, no, no. In some scenario, the use case which I have presented, right? Let me hope you're able to see my screen, right, guys?
Yes, it's visible.
In this scenario, I'm saying, because these guys wanted to see the data only. These guys, these three consumers which I have, this guy, sorry, yeah, this guy, and this guy. They just want to consume the data. That means only get method, get method, get method. In that scenario, data graph will be very useful. In some scenario, you wanted to get the data and rearrange the data, filter the data. In that case, data graph will be very useful. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Gaurav, just keep eye on that chat.
Sure.
Okay, and let me know. You can interrupt me any
And
point.
I think one more point in GraphQL, if you want to only retrieve particular set of columns, not the whole data, so that will save the bandwidth.
Exactly, exactly. That's the filtering part, right? You
Yes.
wanted to filter, right? Filtering, reordering. Ordering also will be taken care by, let's say, like let's say this API. Let me go back to the fields now. Here, if you see, guys, right, to this web API wants title, then author, then ISBN. Okay. But what if my mobile app wants author first and title next? That will be automatic. I don't need to write any custom code for that. Automatically, it's handled by the data. But if I go with the typical approach, I need to write it, right? I need to send in that order only. Otherwise, it will be in customer side or consumer side, it will fail if I don't send in that order. But that will be taken care by my data graph automatically. I don't need to write that ordering also. Okay, is that clear? Okay. Hope so. We have spent sufficient time on the data graph. Yeah. So what happens behind the scene? Okay, behind the scene, if you see here, when you say we are adding API to the data graph, what happens? Okay. So you need to have your API specification. This part has to be there in Exchange. Okay, this has to be there in Exchange. The moment you have this in Exchange, you can add. So what is this? This is this Raman. Okay, so I have written this author REST API. Then that API specification is there in my Exchange. Now The moment you add it to any point data graph, it will create a unified schema for you. So what is this unified schema? Okay, the unified schema looks like a JSON, and that JSON will be having this part, types. Okay, whatever resources you have here, look at this: authors, authors by author ID. So these resources, based on this resource set, it will create the query methods. Look at this. Since I have two resources over here, it will create two query methods, authors and authors by ID. Look at this. Automatically, I don't need to write any code for this. Now, one more thing here, I have a types here. That is a data type actually. Custom data type I have written author. And inside author, I'm saying this is an object, and I have author ID, name, ISBN, email, and phone. This unified schema automatically creates this data type as an object inside unified schema. Now look at this. This guy will be looks like this. Okay, so these two things will happen inside the unified schema, and that unified schema is exactly replica of your API specification. Now, what all you can do this? For example, you wanted to hide this email address. Let's say this is a sensitive. You can go ahead in data graph. You can hide this email, so that email won't be visible to your consumer at all. You cannot query this email. Let's say you want to hide this author's complete method. You can hide it. This won't be visible to your consumer. They won't be able to query. Okay, only one method will be visible. So if you have sensitive data, if you have sensitive methods, you can hide it. That is possible in unified schema. Okay, this one. Now let's see if I wanted to access. This is use case 2. Now let's say I have a non-mule API, non-mule REST API. Now guys, can you tell me how many ways we can access non-mule API inside your Anypoint platform? I wanted to see in the chat. Can you guys? Can you show me in chat how many ways we can access non-mule API inside your Anypoint platform? A question to all. Using proxy, okay, good. Anyone else? Using proxy only? How about others? Creating API spec. No, I just want the answer to how many ways we can access your non-mule API inside your Anypoint platform. Service mesh, okay. REST API. What do you mean by REST API? I don't understand this one. In Anypoint platform, in MuleSoft world, I'm saying. HTTP request. Yeah, good. Okay. Yeah. Third option, okay, guys. We have definitely we can go ahead and access our non-mule API. This API, this non-mule API with a proxy. I already gave the answer over here. You can have HTTP requester. HTTP requester. From that, we can access this. But in both cases, I need to deploy this in my runtime, correct? Everyone agree with this? I need to deploy this in my runtime. This instance has to be there in my runtime. This instance has to be there in my runtime. But there is a third approach, data graph. I don't need to deploy anything in my runtime. Still, I can access this via data graph without deploying anything in my runtime. Provided I need to write the API specification for this in my Exchange. Okay, so the moment you write the specification for this non-mule API in the Mule runtime, you'll be able to see that. Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead. So I already spoke about the API groups. So let's say I have a business. Okay, I have a business where I have multiple APIs. So this is a set of APIs. Now, consumer wanted to see what are user-centric APIs and what are financial APIs.
Sorry to interrupt you, Ashish. There was
No
one
problem.
question by Chandra. Out
Mhm.
of these new features of AnyPoint platform, which one comes without any extra cost slash license?
Yeah, API groups without license, teams without license, async API support without license. I mean, without adding anything to your license. Data graph you need to buy. Transit gateway you need to buy. Okay, so that you need to have it in your license.
That's
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks, Ashish.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. So these are the use case. We'll go a little bit fast. Okay. So I think we are already 12:30. API groups, what it does, I've already explained it. So we can logically make a group of your APIs and then publish those APIs to the exchange. So consumer can clearly see, okay, these are user-centric APIs and these are financial specific. So they will put a request on that specific API group. Okay. Now, if I have something, a different requirement where these are the set of APIs I have. Now, I wanted to put the SLA on it. So what I wanted to say is, okay, for trial category, I'll show only these two APIs, not all APIs. And on those APIs also, I'll say that, okay, you can access 5 times only this guy. 5 times only this guy per second. I can put that kind of requirement, okay, or restrictions with the help of API groups. Now, in the base license, okay, base subscription, I can say that I'll give these APIs, top 5 APIs, and what I'll say, you can access now 100 times. You can access these APIs 100 times. Then I have third more category, which is enterprise subscription, where I'll say I'll give all the APIs access and you don't have any restrictions. So the consumer applied a license for trial, they will get these two APIs only, and they can access these two APIs only 5 times per second. If they apply for this subscription, they will get 5 APIs, and with each API, you can access 100 times. And if they go for enterprise license, they will get all the APIs and they can go, there is no restrictions on the access. So this kind of requirement you can achieve by API groups. Hope this is clear. Okay. Now, third one is, okay, third one, I think this is the last one, where you can replicate or mimic your entire organizational structure, okay, with your teams. So in teams, exactly this structure will replicate the org structure. You can have org structure similarly. Okay, there you'll be having your root company, then you have HR, then maybe parallelly you have sales here, then inside HR you have something else, inside that you have something else, inside that you have something else. Okay, now in that case, you can give the setup permission to this team, setup permission to this team, separate permissions. Here, the root team, right? This is the root team. By default, you will get this team by default. And all the members of your organizations will be part of this team, the root team. Okay. And those members won't be having any permission. They will be having 0 permissions. You need to assign the permissions. Let's say the global level you wanted to have, let's say you wanted to say, or your company enforce that all the member of my company, they should have exchange access. So at the root level, in the root team level, you can give the exchange access. Now, since all the members of your organizations are part of this root team, they by default get this access. Now all the teams below this team, right? All those teams will be having access to Exchange because all the members are actually part of root team. Now you wanted to give HR separate, sales separate, global team separate, then you can create a teams under this root team and then give those specific permissions to those guys. Global permission at the root level and then team specific permission at the team level. So those guys will be getting team specific as well as the root or global specific permissions. Okay. You can invite the whenever you onboard the members to your organizations, right? Same person you can invite from here. So that guy will be added automatically to this team and you already assigned the permissions. You don't need to worry of the permissions of that guy or you don't need to verify the permission of that guy. Automatically, the required permissions will be assigned by that team once that guy is a part of that team. Okay, hope that is clear. Gaurav, any questions?
In the chat.
Okay, yeah, so that's that's all from here. So we quickly go, if time permits, let me show you this card. 12:30 we are already, right? Yeah, quickly, maybe I can go and log into my, yeah, I'll show you login and where all these things are available. I will say quickly. Okay, whatever time permits, we'll try to best utilize it. Okay, so first one, you'll find a data graph over here and the teams and the API groups. Let me show you those first. Let me quickly show you that where all will find it. So I have master group here. Inside master group, if I go to my dev environment, API groups is available over here. You can create the API group over here. Before that, let me create the APIs quickly. I have, so you'll find API groups over here. If I go to the Exchange access management, in access management, try new features. See here, it will show you these are the new features available. In the team section, this is my root team. Okay, and in the root team, you will be having all the users. Okay, you don't need to add those will be automatically coming in under this team, root team, and they won't be having any permissions. Zero permissions to those guys. Okay, zero permissions. Now under this team, you can go to the child teams and you can create a team. Something like I have a chart, I can go ahead and say create. Now you can add a member over here, either a normal member or maintainer. So there is a difference between these two guys. Okay, member is simply whatever permissions you assign to this team plus the permissions are coming from the root team. That's it. When you add any person as a member, if you add a maintainer, that guy has extra permissions. This guy can maintain this team. This guy can invite the people from outside. This guy can move this team to other teams also. Okay, wherever this guy is a member. For example, I have two child teams. Okay, and this member, whichever you are adding here, this guy is a maintainer in other team. Then he can move this particular team to that team as a child team. Okay, so this guy has extra permissions. Okay, member only will get a permissions whatever you assign to that team plus the permissions whatever coming from your parent. Okay, that is about the teams. I'll quickly show you. Let me go. So this is API graph. This API group and teams. If I go to design center, there's a new feature over here. See this one, asynchronous API. Let's go ahead here, and I'll say orders async API. Okay, create async. Here, if you see, this supports YAML and JSON. Okay, so as I was talking about, right? So this supports right now 2.0.0. If I say 2 dot here, right, it won't show you anything this side in the preview. The moment I'll say 2.0.0, it will show you here. Okay, so everyone, you can go here and find the playground for this. Maybe I'll pin this in the chat. You can go ahead and do this. Okay, so do we have versioning in Anypoint platform just like we have for Anypoint Studio? Chandra, the versioning of Anypoint platform, what do you mean by that?
I mean, like we have for Anypoint Studio 7.7, 7.6. Do we have for Anypoint platform? Because new features are getting added to Anypoint platform. So are there like if suppose we don't want these features, can we have like old version of Anypoint platform?
When you buy a license, right? That
Yeah.
time definitely no, there won't be any version, but there will be mentioned that what kind of mule runtime you're going to use. Okay, that will be mentioned. Okay, but any point platform version, there won't be something like that. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so this asyncapi.com, you can go ahead and there is a playground available over here. You can play with this. Okay. Now I was talking about designer. Okay, so in channel, what you can say, you can have here, in the shelf, the options available again. So this is YAML, right? So it will work on the tabs wherever your cursor is. Based on that, you will get options. Okay. So in here we are talking about channels. So I can say this is my order service, right? So I'll say orders. Okay, I'll go with one. The moment I say here I need to define whether I'm going to use publish operation or subscribe operation. So I'll go with the publish. Then I'll say how my message looks like. You'll go I'll message. Here I'll say now see, either you can use the reference or you can use the directly payload. If you use a reference, you need to define the components down there. Okay. So we'll go with the payload. And what I'll say that uh, I have the payload type object. I'll go down here and I say, if you go here, there is option called type and then object. Down there, you can define, if you see the moment you say object, right, it will ask for the properties. And now in the properties, you can give a name like ID. You have order, right? So it will be ID. What type? Type, you can go ahead. You can say string. Okay, now you can go ahead and you can say customer ID over here, customer underscore ID. Okay, here again you say type. I was talking about something like email, right? It can be type, string. Here there is the format. Okay, like we have pattern in the rest, right? Here you can say whether it's a password or it's a date, time, or byte. Here you can say email. Okay, now go with amount. Type. Here you can give number, and here you can give example also. Okay, description also you can give. Okay, so this is one. Right side you see the complete EP specification, and you can publish this guy to the exchange. Okay, you can go ahead 1.0.0 publish to exchange. Okay. Now, meanwhile, what I'll do is, so I have this my favorite public REST API available. Okay. So this is the API available. Now we'll try to access this via data graph. Okay. So I wanted to see the data whenever I am hitting that GraphQL URL or endpoint. If I say give me data for 3, it should give me data for this guy. If I say give me data for something else, it should give me data for that system. Okay. So let's go and try it. Okay, done. So first of all, what we need to do is we need to go to Design Center and we need to create the API specification for that non-mule API. So what I'll say users RESTful API. Okay, I'll just create it. Simple. I'll try to mimic this, whatever output I'm getting. Okay, what is the resource looks like. I'll try to mimic it. Okay, so to save time, I have already created it. Let me check it's available so that we can save the time. Hope you're able to see my screen. So users RESTful. I'll just open this file. Control C. Let's go to my specification. Control V. Look at this. Okay. So what I'm doing is I have a data type. I have a resource. Same resource, right? I'm mimicking user/user ID. That's what I'm doing here. User/ID. And what data I'm getting? I'm getting data something like this. Correct. One thing, if I wanted to use this in the data graph, right? It has to have data type, proper data type. Okay, so that's what I have created here in the types. If you look at this, there is a user, and this is kind of object. It has data, it has support. If you look at this here, and if I copy this output, go to my notepad. Okay, oh, sorry, what did I copy? So I copy this, Control C, Control V, Control V, and let me choose one. Okay, look at this. This is output, right? This is what I am mimicking over there. So if you go back here in my, so I have data, and data has this many properties, support has this many properties. Now we can publish this to Exchange simply. You can go ahead 1.0.0, publish it. Now, the moment you publish it, now done. Okay, now you can go back to your data graph. Okay, let's go to data graph. Now, first let me show you guys. Okay, let me show you. I don't have anything in my runtime manager right now. Okay, if I want to access this non-mule API, I need to, deploy something in my runtime manager. Correct? Nothing is there. See, I'll go to data graph directly. Yeah, so here, see here, you can create the endpoint per environment, but per environment you can have only one endpoint. Okay, that is what I was discussing. Add API. Now see here, we have uploaded two APIs. One asynchronous API and one is synchronous API, but only synchronous API is available. So data graph won't support asynchronous API. That is the proof. Okay, so we have uploaded, just now we uploaded two things, right? But only these guys are available. If you go to my Exchange, you'll be able to see two APIs over there. Go to Exchange, leave this. Okay, see here, there are two things. Okay, but only REST APIs are supported. Async API is not supported by data graph. So two things we have discussed, right? Now configure URL. Now, when you are configuring URL, it will show you this metadata is coming from Exchange only. What is the API version and what is the asset version? Confirm selection. Then here you need to use the URL. Now, which URL we are going to use? We are going to use this URL. Control C. Go back over here. Control V. But till API only. I'll remove it. Save now. So without any authentication, we are able to access. So I'm not going to apply any authentication on this URL. Now preview schema. Now you can see that I have only one method inside, only one resource in my RAML, right? So that's the reason I'm able to see only one query method over here. Now edit schema. Now while editing, right, you can make visible your method. You can go to the data types. So there are 3 data types over here: user, data, and support. Now once you edited it, okay, what you can do, you can add it to unified schema. It will take some time. Okay, it takes some time, maybe sometime 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, up to your network speed. Okay, yeah, this is one thing. Now what I'll do is let it update. Quickly I'll go to my API manager. I'll go to my API manager. I wanted to show you the API groups. Okay, I'll go to API manager. Dev environment. I'll create manage API. Everybody is aware of this, right? So if I say users over here, it will show mine. Now this metadata is again coming from the exchange. Now here I'll create a proxy for my users. So I don't have any implementation URL right now. Save. What I'll do, I'll duplicate. Gaurav, any questions?
Questions?
Okay, so this is my API in mind. So what I can do is I'll copy this URL. Control C. Okay. So we'll get mock data. But I won't be able to use this URL unless I make it public. Okay, now I'll copy this URL and I'll go back to my Control V, but in here you need to define. I'm using mocking solution because I have not implemented it yet. I'll use this URL down here 4.4 and proxy. Okay, hyphen deploy. This will take some time. Okay, now we'll close this. I'll go to different business group. So I'm going to my HR business group. Here I'll do same thing. Okay, so I have to upload it here, one API. Go to let me check it is up to date. Okay, up to date. Okay, so one by one I'll show you. Okay, so now if you run this query, so here there are no applications. These are client applications. Okay, you can create new application. So this client application is required to access your data graph endpoint. So I'll just say everything is optional. Okay. Now you can see here. Query. This query, mutation, subscription, fragment, these are coming from the graph keyword. But my AnyPoint data graph only supports query right now. This part. Okay, so I can go inside. If I say control space again, see, this is the method. This is a query method available from my API specification. Okay, or it's coming from unified schema. Now here it's expecting ID. Now if you see this guy, if I pass to control space data inside data control space, I have first name, control space, I have email. Let me run this. See here, it's coming from actual API. Okay, I can change the values and you can see the results. This is not mock data, guys. Okay, this is coming from actual API. Look at this. EMA is 3. EMA belongs to ID 3. See here, this is coming from there. Okay, now I can reorder it any point. Like for example, right now I'm asking email first. Do I need to write any code for this? No. And this will get tagged. So getting data, filtering it and ordering it, everything you can have it here. Let me show you one thing quickly. Right now, if you see copy endpoint, you need client ID and client secret. Okay, so by default, on your data graph endpoint, client ID and client secret policies apply. So you can go get this client ID, client secret. You can access this API from HTTP request component, or you can access it from the any REST client. If you don't want this client ID, client secret, what you can do is you can go to API manager. The moment you add that API to your data graph, okay, refresh it. It will show one more option here. So I'm in different business group. I'll go to training. See, analytics, after custom policy, you have one more option called data graph administration. Now see, by default, this client ID enforcement is selected. You can go ahead, you can apply the SLA based rate limiting also. You can apply no policy. So if you apply no policy, then you don't need this client ID and client secret. This option will be deleted from here. You can access this endpoint without any security. Okay, so that is the option available. Okay. Now let me take you how the unified schema looks like. Okay, let's go back. Unified schema, list of API added. Click on the API. Now, one more thing I wanted to do. If you want to promote this API, look at this. You have dev, your data graph is there in dev right now. You can deploy, migrate it to prod. See, you can configure different URL over here. Okay, either you wanted to go with the mocking service or add new URL based on your production. So this data graph will migrate it to prod. Now cancel. Any questions, Gaurav? I think we are running out of time. I need
No
to.
questions are there, Ashish. Very good.
Okay. So I talked about API special little bit. I talked about team. I talked about data graph. Let me show you how it looks. Overview. Unified schema. Run query. See here. So there is option called download schema. Okay, so let me download this unified schema. Okay, it will come as a .graphql, and it looks like, just a second. Okay, showing folder. If you open this, look at this. So we have added one API which has one resource, and that resource is converted into a query method. Look at this. In the one of the slide I was mentioning, right? Type. So type is query, type is support, type is user, and type data. Inside the user, I was having two data types, right? Data and support. Now those data types was having text, URL, and data was having these properties. Now, if you add one more API, those things will be added to this list. It will keep on adding everything in one unified schema. So per environment, you'll get one unified schema, one data graph endpoint. Hope you got it, right? Yeah, so that's what I have. Maybe I have a lot of things, but we are running out of time.
There is one question from Jivan. We can use this schema.graphql for GraphQL router, right? So the latest question by Jivan.
GraphQL router, I mean, you mean you are using GraphQL integration? Yes. Yeah. You'll define that way only, right? This way you'll write it. Yes. These are the schemas. Okay. So let's move on to the trivia quiz. So I have used references. Yeah. So, take a stand, nominate yourself as a new speaker. Maybe you can suggest the topics. Okay. Please go ahead and do that. Yeah. Gaurav, so here I need your help. So we'll be going through the slides and we'll pick the winner from there. Okay. So you'll be watching the chat window. There people will be answering the question, and we need to pick the one super fast winner from the list. In the chat window, they'll be answering. Okay.
Okay.
So one suggestion or request to the participants: if you recently already own any trivia quiz, right? So please don't participate. Even if you win, right, you won't get it. So we have 3 questions, and all are objective, not subjective. Okay. So the first question, Gaurav, ready? Okay. So how can we host private APIs in MuleSoft? Okay. How can we host private APIs in MuleSoft? This is out of, we can say out of book question. Okay. This we have not covered. I already mentioned in the starting of the session, right? The options are using Mule runtime, using VPC, using singleton Java class, using load balancer. Yeah, let me see the. Yeah, the question is clear, right, guys?
Karan Gupta was first.
Okay. Yep. The correct answer is using VPC.
Okay, so Karan Gupta.
Yeah, please note down that name somewhere.
Okay.
Karan, we need your email address. Okay, so yeah, so that is the first winner. Okay. Now, second question. I can mimic your entire org structure in Anypoint platform. I can control access to resources in Anypoint platform. Who am I? Who am I? I'm repeating the question again. I can mimic your entire org structure in Anypoint platform.
So we got the answer before getting the option. So what to do?
Oh my God.
People are spamming the answer.
Okay, options are business groups, environments, teams, roles. Let me see. Hope this is clear to you. Hey,
First was Chandra Prakash. He was the first one to say teams.
okay. Are you putting any? No, I don't want VPC. I want the options, guys. Okay.
Okay.
Did you put any line over there? No, Chandra Prakash wrong. That's what we in hurry will lose. I don't want the. I want option. Okay.
Yes, so we
Yeah.
have option after that.
Mohammed.
Mohammad
Mohammed.
Fahad.
Yeah. You missed the trick. Okay. That's what. Without giving option, you are answering. So, yeah. Third question. Okay, guys. One more chance.
So do we need email ID of Mohammed or we are skipping this question?
No, no, we are not skipping the question.
So who is the one then?
Whoever answer, Muhammad.
Mohammed.
Yes.
So Mohammed, please ping your email ID then.
Yeah. Okay. Third question. When did Anypoint platform start supporting asynchronous API specification? Let me repeat this question. Okay. When did Anypoint platform start supporting asynchronous API specification? I want month and year. In one way, in which month the Anypoint platform supported this? Options are June 2021, July 2021, August 2021, October 2021. Okay, let me see who is giving answer. Okay, put a line over there.
Okay. So
Yeah, let me know.
yep. So the last was Mohammed's email. So Mohammed gave his email and then the answer started coming over.
Okay. Yeah, anyone wants to give the answer for this? Any guess? Again, Srinivas. I need option, man. Okay, Mohammed already won the prize. So next is Nitish Raj.
Nitish Raj. Okay.
Yeah, D is the right answer.
Nitish,
This
ping
month.
your email
Yeah.
ID.
Yeah. Congrats, everyone. Okay. All the winners. And yeah, so yeah, clearly I mentioned in the last October 2021 is the right answer, but it's not right in our context. We need options. Okay.
Nitish wants to surrender his voucher.
Okay. Then who is there? Srinivas.
Dinesh
Yeah.
Srinivas.
Srinivas. Yeah, Srinivas, can you ping your mail address, please? Yeah, so can you name the winners, Gaurav?
So we have Karan Gupta, Mohammad Fahad,
Mm-hmm.
then Nitish Raj
Srinivas.
surrender. It's Srinivas.
Yeah, yeah,
Hello.
congrats, everyone.
Hello.
Yeah, so what next? Whatever email IDs you shared with the Gaurav, right? Thanks, Gaurav, for that help. Please make sure that you have training account with that email address. If you don't have, please create it. And after this session, you'll get a feedback form. Please fill that. Okay. And yeah, and then please come forward. And if you wanted to speak, if you wanted to say something, you have time now. You have a platform, complete platform to you. Okay.
So what is the prize?
Price for whom? Price for you?
Quiz winners.
Yeah, so they will get vouchers, okay, training vouchers of their choice. So they will get a form. They need to fill that form and submit it. I'll be sharing that soon with all winners. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for attending the session. Thanks a lot, Gaurav. Abhishek is not there. That can also help me a lot. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, see you in the next sessions. If you guys wanted to say something, please go ahead, and otherwise we are done. Gaurav, you want to add anything?
Session.
Thank you so much. I'll stop recording.
Okay, I'll drop off.